June 2025. Late at night in the Gulf region. Suddenly, sirens and explosions echo near two U.S. military outposts, al-Udeid in Qatar and al-Asad in Iraq. Iran confirms responsibility. Today we break down what happened, why it matters, and how the world is reacting. At exactly 12:20 a.m. local time, the calm of the Gulf night was broken. Iran launched 7 ballistic missiles in a coordinated operation targeting 2 of America's most strategic military positions in the Middle East. 3 missiles headed toward Qatar, home to al-Udeid Air Base, the largest U.S. military installation in the region. 4 missiles flew toward Iraq, aiming for the al-Asad Air Base, a familiar target from past tensions. In Qatar, U.S. and allied missile defense systems activated instantly. 2 of the 3 incoming projectiles were successfully intercepted mid-air, but 1 missile slipped through. It struck the outer perimeter of al-Udeid. The blast damaged storage facilities and shattered windows in nearby barracks. Thankfully, no injuries were reported. But in Iraq, the results were different. 3 missiles made impact inside al-Asad. The explosions rocked the base, sending troops scrambling for cover. Early reports confirmed 12 U.S. service members were wounded, some seriously, though no fatalities have been confirmed as of this hour. Iran quickly claimed responsibility through state-controlled media. A press release from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps stated, "These strikes are a legitimate and measured response to ongoing acts of aggression by the Zionist regime and its American backers." There was no warning, no prior provocation that night. No visible posturing. Just sudden, silent speed, followed by precision strikes. This was not random. It was planned, deliberate, and symbolic. Tehran wanted to show the world that its reach is intact, and that no American presence in the region is too far or too safe to be targeted. Iran's message was not just about missiles. It was about memory and revenge. Just days earlier, an unconfirmed Israeli airstrike hit a facility near Isfahan, believed to be tied to Iran's nuclear program. Although Israel did not officially claim responsibility, Tehran pointed fingers almost immediately and then added the United States to the blame. According to Iranian officials, U.S. intelligence and airspace support made the strike possible. Inside Iran, the political atmosphere was boiling. Hardline voices in parliament demanded action. The supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, issued a rare direct statement. Resistance must be answered with strength. Silence is submission. This is the context behind the missile launch. A calculated signal from Tehran, not to start a war, but to show it's no longer willing to absorb hits without firing back. Iran chose its targets carefully. 2 key U.S. military bases, far from civilians, but close enough to cause panic. Close enough to wound without killing. Close enough to make a point, without crossing a line that could start a full-scale war. Iran wants leverage. It knows the U.S. is caught between protecting allies and avoiding escalation. By striking now, Iran is shifting the balance just enough to force Washington to think twice before backing another strike. The message was simple. We can hurt you. We just chose not to yet. Washington didn't wait long to respond. Just hours after the attacks, President Biden convened an emergency security briefing. Key advisors from the Pentagon, State Department, and CIA gathered to assess the situation. Shortly after, the president addressed the nation in a short, firm statement. "We will protect our troops. We will respond with strength, but we will not be dragged into reckless war." Behind the scenes, however, the military machine was already in motion. CENTCOM forces across the Gulf were placed on high alert. All non-essential personnel at al-Udeid and al-Asad were moved into secure shelters. U.S. fighter jets were scrambled out of Bahrain, and the Red Sea Fleet was repositioned toward the Strait of Hormuz. 2 carrier strike groups, the USS Eisenhower and USS Bataan, were ordered to stand ready for response maneuvers. Meanwhile, defense systems across Kuwait, UAE, and Jordan went into elevated readiness. Air patrols were doubled. Cyber defense teams were activated in case the missile strike was paired with a digital offensive. At NATO headquarters in Brussels, a special session was called. The alliance expressed full support for U.S. personnel in the region. However, no European nation offered direct military involvement. Israel, in contrast, went silent. No public comment, no statements. Observers say this silence speaks volumes and may signal that Tel Aviv is preparing for another covert move. Washington now walks a tightrope. Retaliate too hard and risk regional war. Do nothing and look weak. And all this with American soldiers still recovering from wounds just hours old. In Iraq, the strike reignited old tensions. Parliament members demanded a timeline for U.S. troop withdrawal, calling the attack a consequence of foreign presence. The Iraqi Prime Minister walked a careful line, condemning the strike, but also warning the U.S. not to escalate further. In Qatar, the Emir condemned the missile launch but urged both sides to show restraint. Qatar is home to thousands of U.S. troops, and balancing that role with regional diplomacy is becoming harder by the day. Elsewhere in the region, Saudi Arabia and the UAE pushed for de-escalation. Turkey and Oman quietly offered to mediate. Bottom line, this strike shook not just buildings but alliances, and it left every Gulf state asking, what happens if there's a next time? The moment missiles struck, global markets flinched. Crude oil prices jumped 7% overnight, reaching levels not seen since late 2023. Brent crude surged past $96 a barrel. Energy analysts warned, if Iran strikes again or threatens shipping routes, the world could see $120 oil within weeks. The Strait of Hormuz, where 1/5 of global oil passes, is now under heavy watch. U.S. Navy destroyers began escorting tankers. Insurance rates for oil shipments skyrocketed. Shipping delays are already being reported out of the Gulf. Stock markets in Asia and Europe dipped. Wall Street opened lower. Airlines, freight, and energy sectors showed immediate pressure. Gasoline prices rose in the U.S. by nearly 18 cents per gallon in just 48 hours. And if this conflict deepens, consumers around the world will feel the pinch. It's not just missiles anymore. It's wallets, fuel pumps, and supply chains. Right now, the Middle East sits on a knife's edge. Iran fired the first shot openly. The U.S. is weighing its options carefully. And every nation in between is bracing for what could come next. If the U.S. decides to strike back, even in a limited way, Iran may escalate through its regional proxies, Hezbollah in Lebanon, militias in Iraq, or the Houthis in Yemen. If Iran decides to block oil flow or disrupt the Strait of Hormuz, the global economy could spiral. But if cooler heads prevail, if pressure is applied diplomatically, this might end as a message, not a war. No one wants a full-scale conflict. But after last night's missile strike, the red lines are blurred. Now, it all comes down to what the U.S. does next and how far Iran is willing to go. You're watching a fast-moving story, hour by hour. This isn't just about Iran and the U.S. It's about every country tied to oil, trade, and security. You're watching a fast-moving story, hour by hour. This isn't just about Iran and the U.S. It's about every country tied to oil, trade, and security. Stay informed. Let us know in the comments. Do you think the U.S. should respond with force or hold back? Make sure to subscribe, because the next 24 hours might decide the next decade in the Middle East. This is not just politics anymore. It's history unfolding.